Okay, so what on earth was I doing? What on earth was I thinking about? Okay, what was I thinking about? I suppose what I was thinking about was two things. Let's run this little bugger and see what it is I need to do. I need to show info. I need to at least show highest point, average point. Do I need something else? It would be useful to have them before and after scaling, but also I really think that what would be useful would be more detailed distribution information before and after scaling. So, at its most simple, I suppose I imagine just some lines of information: the highest point before scaling, the average point before scaling, highest point after scaling, average point after scaling, and a pair of graphs of distribution, one before and one after scaling. Now, that does sort of suggest calculating that every time the apply button is pressed, which I don't know. It's going to depend how long it takes to figure out those distributions. Like, how detailed a distribution graph do I want? I don't know of a fast way to sort things into groups or into buckets. Do I? Do I? Yeah, I suppose just dividing them. If I'm going to go for if I'm going to go for an equal set of groups, I think that I'll do this. I think that it doesn't really take long to parse an array this size. It takes ages to load it because I'm being so dim about the loading. I'll come back to the loading and saving. But actually scooting through it takes a tiny fraction of a second, even when doing it in exponential scale. And to figure these extra pieces of information, that's not the kind of thing that'll be required. I don't think. So, I feel like the information that's going to be displayed is going to be fairly like this. You know, it's a text file, so this is just a couple of pieces of information for labels and two graphs. So I don't think I'm going to bother with a table. I think that I would just have the four labels. I mean, you know, I could put in a table and I could add the lines of information. The slight benefit of doing that is it's a bit easier to add extra lines of information. But I'm not going to do that now I think about it. I'm just going to put in the labels. And perhaps I need to determine a new gadget, which is something like bar graph, I guess. mean, yeah, it's going to have to be bar graph. The problem with the bar graphs, really, really, really wish it that this, like I'm looking forward. Save. Oh, fine. This shouldn't. I shouldn't have to reach for the keyboard and type something out here. Oh God. Just nothing, nothing, nothing. This is all too slow and too frustrating. And this time, okay, it's remembered everything. Okay, whatever. Okay. The problem with the bar graphs, how utterly hideous this looks, is, let's say I have 10 divisions, or whatever. Man, I cannot use the mouse to draw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, even 7 divisions. This, like, the height doesn't need to be super precise, I don't think. I just need to have the top and 0. And like a number. Hang on a sec. No, right, yeah, so this is like a percentage of the lines which are this height, and this is the lowest line, and this is the top height of line, and each of these is a division in between. So the lowest 10% and the top is 10%. If this was 10 divisions, God. So in the top 10%, what percentage of the lines? But it'd be handy to be able to float over the bar and get a piece of information. Because these little divisions will be very small, and as will this. Like, if I imagine, if I'm getting 2 bar graphs, which have to be able to change size, but assuming I'm getting a pair of bar graphs across here, each division is going to be pretty small. I'm just not going to get much text in to describe what the division represents. Or up the side, to be fair, considering I can't draw vertical text. Which is another thing. I should just get back into the GUI now that I've gotten more relaxed about firing into the GUI and making huge bloody changes to it. Putting in some vertical text wouldn't be a massive hassle. But it's not what I'm going to do just now. In a way, what does seem to make more sense is that if there's a bar, or in any vertical division of the graph, if you hover the mouse over it, just a piece of text appears. Something associated with the bar graph gadget, which gives information about what this actual column represents. This would be a complicated little gadget, and I wonder if there's an easier way. Like, certainly I could say there's an easier way in terms of just not making it as sophisticated, not putting in so many bits of information. Just finding a way of indicating that, you know, this is the top 10%, this is the bottom 10%. I don't know if I have space to write 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. I don't know. But something like that. And it would be left to you to infer what this actual top is. I might have a top percentage number here. This graph would go the opposite way, by the way. This would end up being the highest, and these would end up being the lowest. But so you would be left to infer, like, this might read like 40% at the top, and that would be a variable number depending on what the distribution was, because I'd want to be able to occupy as much of this space as I could. So I'd figure out which column held the largest proportion and make it the top of the table, and then mark this axis appropriately. So the minimal thing I can imagine doing is marking this axis in a simple way with however many divisions I determine, not having the extra information displayed, but just having the series of bars, and you being left to infer that if this is the top 10%, then this little bit is, because also in the display will be top before, I'm not expecting myself to be able to read this, top before scale and a number. The point is, by combining the information about what the top value is, you'll be able to understand what this column is and what each of these columns are. I mean, it's not ideal. It would be nicer to hover over and get the exact information, but actually the main thing I want is a visual representation, a visual indication that these numbers have become more of exactly how these numbers change when I perform different types of distribution algorithm on them. And in a way, the shape of the two graphs comparatively is more significant than the exact details of any column. This is me rationalizing, making it simpler for myself. So, I'm doing a good job of rationalizing it to myself. Drawing the bar graphs is a pain. I could always just draw out the text, But nah, I guess I'll make some kind of gadget that draws a simple bar graph where you pass in a series of floats and, well, I don't know, what else would it be? Man, how much trouble do I want to go to here? Like, I could do a gadget which drew a bar graph where you pass in a series of floats and it basically did all the figuring to represent them all proportionally in the space that you determine, and that it would automatically draw in a pair of axes. With, yeah, well, I can do this. I could do this. It's not, yeah, I'm going to do that. I can hardly believe I'm sitting here convincing myself that that is what I'm going to do, but it is what I'm going to do. Only 13 minutes. I'm going to just pause for a moment and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to basically start writing that bar graph gadget. Okay. So I should think carefully about what I need to do. I should think about how complicated to write or create a bar graph gadget might be. And well, what might it be like? Let's have a little think. just nab this because it's pretty much what I want. Now, what sort of things are associated with the bar graph gadget? One is the data, which is an array of floats. Another thing I think is a gradient, because I would like to be past a gradient in which to draw this array, and I'll use the gradient from the current render of the array. And not a huge amount else. There'll be the finished draw. I know it wants me to behave well, but I just like things like that. And there might not be much more than finished draw. Well, there will be something. There'll be set data. And accept something like that. And maybe set gradient. So what else might there be? I think there might be rects, grect. Actually, rect's a list of grect. I think. Yeah. And I have a feeling I'll need a global tcall temp color. So there'll also be update rects. Void. Maybe there won't be. I guess these things like this, I've not quite got into the swing of making them properties, when really, you know, they could be properties. Let me think though. Because maybe I don't need update the rects. Maybe set data is going to update the rects. But maybe I do need something like something like what? Borders, axis size, axis width. I'm not sure. Something that'll help. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll just start with that. And something here will be axis width equals line height. And what else? finish draw, if not data, return. Or it could be if rect empty, return. Okay. For the time being, I'll just make gradient equal g. I'm not sure that's how I really want it to be. I'm not sure if I want to prefigure those gradient values, you know, if I'm doing it anyway. Which do I want to do first? Here's what I want to do. I want to draw simple axes. Man. How much of this do I want to store? How much of it do I not? What this exactly needs to do is take an array of floats, and it needs to create a bar graph where every float has an entry. And it wants to scale the display of the graph. It wants to set the axis of the graph such that the highest value in the array occupies the height of the graph. But that the vertical axis on the graph is marked in percent, just with the highest percent at the top and 0% at the bottom. It's not going to be totally clear, but it's not going to be terrible. So if the highest value is between 0 and 10% of the highest height, and that, like 40% of the pixels are within the lowest 10%, then that first bar will be the height of the graph, and the top of the vertical axis will be marked 40. Or 40%, or 40 with a percentage mark halfway down the axis. And I need as many horizontal positions as there are entries, and I need each of the horizontal positions at least given some sort of indication. In the horizontal axis. Maybe I really, I don't know, I'm humming and hawing. Maybe I don't really need a list of rects. Maybe I need only maybe the only thing I really need is a list of floats. But it's, what it technically is a list of heights. Can I just say float list? You're going to have a problem with that. Maybe. I'm going to be displaying a couple of these things, a bit at a time. I suppose maybe you'll have several open. It's still, the sums to display them are going to be pretty easy. I think just storing a list of heights. So, what exactly is about to happen? And let me just actually check one little thing. If I hover over here, 13 minutes, 11 minutes, it's going fine. So, 1 second. So, what is it that I need to do? I need to think about finish draw because it needs to draw the axis and it needs to draw the graph. But equally, inside set data, set data needs to take the axis into account as well, because inside set data I want to set the list of heights. I suppose I can call, yeah, maybe update heights is a good thing to do. Because upon resizing, yeah, I'll have to have a finish resize as well, because the heights need to change. And really, well, no, they don't really. Actually, as long as the heights are a series of numbers between 0 and 1, yeah, which they will be. So let's say I'm setting the data. The first thing I'm going to do is go through the data and find the highest one. Local high, float equals 0.0. And maybe I will just actually I will just say local I int equals 0. For I equals 0 until data length, until d length. Also, I'll say data equals d slice 0 if data I is greater than I equals data I. And now, oh, I think that's okay. For I equals 0 until data length, heights add last. Now what is it? It's like the proportion of whatever data I is to high, and the lower it is, like the smaller the number. So high divided by high, the highest one divided by it will be 1. So if the highest one was 100, then one that was 90 I'd want to be 0.9. So that is the data I divided by high, is it? Yeah, the smaller divided by the larger gives a smaller number. Am I getting that right? So 90 divided by 100. I'm just going to check. Yeah, phew. Sometimes I really have no faith in my brain. So that should fill height with a number of floats equal to, well, a float for every entry, basically between 0 and 1. Now, I have another problem though. Well, let me see. What is this problem? This is a little bit of a sum problem. It is. Alright, okay, so also I want a local comma total. It's weird that I'm accepting a float here. The float is kind of... it's a silly thing. It should be sort of ints, but never mind. I want to use floats. And here I want to say total plus equals data I. And I think that I will have field max float, and here I need to say max is like total what is it really? It's like, let's say that I only had 100 pixels, 10 by 10, and I found out that in the lowest 10% there were 90% of the pixels. So, oh man, I really hate this sort of sum because I always get it the wrong way round. But basically, what I'm trying to figure out is, based on the total and the highest, what is the percentage? And it's like the highest divided by the total multiplied by 100. I think high divided by total multiplied 100. Let's just have a little play. Because let's say that the highest was 90. Or let's say that the highest was 75. 75% of the pixels were less than 10%, say. Divided by... yeah, 75% because divided by 100 because there are only 100 pixels in my imaginary thing. And then, yeah, multiply by 100. Means 75%. No, I just divided that by 100, didn't I? I divided 100 by 100 very cleverly. But 1.75 multiplied by 100 gives. So I'll say max percent here. So, I suppose I could save myself doing a couple of things by also having columns int and just say columns equals data length and just do it until columns and until columns. Because I will use this here as well. I'm not going to do update X for now, I may come back to it. But here, what? Is this a... oops, yeah, good point. This is heights. Now, I'm going to do this as simply as possible. I'm going to draw two rectangles. I'm going to define a couple of colors first. I'm going to say, well, actually I'll just say one. No, I've already got one, didn't I? I figured this out. T-call. T-call set to this gadget skin outfit of the correct state, color, font. So I'm going to get the color of the font of this gadget. Whatever sort of, this gadget could be created with any skin, but this will extract the correct color font from that skin for this gadget in this state. It's not that easy, is it? But I mean, that's the way it goes. And that color I'm going to use to draw a couple of rectangles, or actually a few. I'm going to start with the axis, the horizontal axis. And it's going to basically, I'm going to make this thing occupy the entire frame as well as I can. So this is what? G-draw. GUI image. Square. X is... Okay, I'm going to define a couple other things. Local X float equals... Oh man, what is that? This is called again, it's like face... I'll make it face left. And Y float equals face top. So here I need X plus axis width, comma 0, no, Y. And it's width 1 and height, okay, hang on, width float equals face width, height float equals face height. These, I could make these into globals just for the sake of not having to assign them, but I'm sure I'd be wasting my time. And here I want H minus axis width. Probably, okay, that doesn't matter. And the color I want to be T-call AV. And I'm sure the default is alpha. Blend mode alpha. And also I want to G-draw GUI image square X plus axis width, comma height minus axis width, comma width minus axis width, comma 1, comma T-call AV, comma blend mode alpha. Oops, blend mode alpha. Okay. Now I want to... Oh, no, actually I want to do this slightly differently. X plus... let me just define another little global. Will I? Nah, I won't. I'll do it here. I will say local tail float equals axis width divided by 2.0. So this, actually, I want it to be height minus axis width plus tail. And I want this to be x plus axis width minus tail, and to be as wide as width minus axis width plus tail. That's the length of the dits that I want sticking out of the axis to help define the bottom and top of it. Those little tails will stick out at the origin. Now I need to draw a tail. I'm just going to do the top of the vertical axis, which will just be here. GUI image square, and the x will be this as it is above, x plus axis width minus tail, and the y will be 0. No, it won't. The y will be y. The width will be tail, and the height will be 1. Y would, yeah, okay, yeah. I gotta make that a 1.0, I can't help it. And the color again will be tcall AV, and it will be blend mode alpha. Now I need to draw a succession of tails, but I also need to draw each column, and I'm drawing the same number of tails as columns along the horizontal axis. So, but in the vertical axis I want to draw a couple of bits of text, and I wonder if I should actually just make a, I wonder if I should reserve some text, or if I should, no, I won't bother, I'll just say G text. It's not as fast to do this. And now I'm in doubt. Because I could make a series of labels, and in fact I will. I hate to do it. I really hate to. But I will. Field labels, list my label, yeah, equals new list my label. It is tedious, this, but, and field low label my label. This is really not good doing this. When I think about it, it makes it much more of a pain to draw, and it means putting in does it? I'm not going to do this. I'm just not. I'm going to use text. It's just quicker and easier. What can I say? What's the problem with this, matey? Okay. So, I'm just going to draw text at the bottom, text at the top, and text in the middle. And the text at the top is going to be drawn. This is not going to look that great when I think about it. It really isn't. But I'm going to do it this way anyway, because I'm just kind of like that. Can I say G text, G print? Now I want the string of max percent. No, I don't. Max percent. Max percent. Where do I find that out? Max percent has to be an integer. And that will do. And I will hope for the best. Max percent at basically 0.0, 0.0. I'll make it 0.0,1. We'll see how that goes. And again, t call av si size. I'm going to say font small and see how we get on. And also g text, g print, the string of, oh no, actually don't put the string of 0, just do 0, comma, again 0.0, though that's not very good, but this time height minus axis width, height minus axis width minus font small xy, comma, t call av, comma, font small. And finally, I think that I will leave it at that. I will see how this looks and I will consider putting a little percent sign in. I'm kind of just going to get through to the end of this because it's going to be pretty hideous in a way. Now, I need another. I need this t call, fine, and global b call g color equals new g color. I wonder if I can get away with gradient equals, saying gradient equals new gradient. I don't think I can. Is there such a... can I get away with saying gradient equals gradient dot create? That's what I'm going to try and do. That will just be abandoned if a new gradient is set. Anyway. Because now what I'm going to do is for a local for a local h, no, high float equals each in heights Now, I want to go through each height, but there's another couple of things I want to start do first. Which is, I want to figure out what the columns actually are. So I want hang on a sec, let me think. Well, anyway, yeah, sorry, I'm thinking ahead and getting ahead of myself. What I need to think about just now is 1.0 or 100, say, 1.0 divided by columns. Local C would float equals 1.0 divided by columns multiplied by 100. I think. And local key C call float equals C would the way I'm going to note this just now, anyway. This 0, I think maybe I don't want it there. I think maybe I want it there. Or maybe even that plus 1.0 or something like that. We'll see. Okay. Actually, no, never mind. Okay. So what do I want to do here? One thing is, I want to draw on a tail and write a piece of text at the bottom. That means oh my gosh. Okay. Nah. I need to do some other things. This is the column A. This is the column percent. And this is the current percent. Column percent step. But also I need local current x float equals axis width plus 1.0. Local, actually I should do some of this up here now that I think about it. Local base equals float equals height minus axis width. I'll just do this as well. Left float equals man. It's annoying, this, really. Left equals x plus axis width. So can I use left? I don't know. Left minus tail. Left and this is base. But base isn't really a good name for it. Base. I guess it should really be called, oh man, G height for graph height. Okay. H minus axis width, that's G height again. Plus x. Local call step float equals s minus axis height. No, axis width, sorry, that does make sense. But also local if I need it, which I kind of do, I'll just make a note of it, equals width minus axis width. It should just be axis size. Call step equals g width divided by the float of columns. Now there's something else. Y minus g height for, no, I plus g height for bottom. So, what am I looking at here? So, I want to draw a rectangle. But I want to be careful about. First off, I want to draw, oh man, at some point I'm going to say current x plus equals call step, and then at that point I want to say g draw GUI image square current x comma bottom comma 1.0 comma tail comma t call comma blend mode alpha. I've gone on far too long here. Yeah, okay. Well, basically what I'm doing is I'm working through drawing little bar graphs. This has been pretty tedious, but I'm hoping it will be worth it. It'll be informative. And that actually there's less still to go than there looks like. This is pretty horrible looking, but it'll clean up. Okay, and what's the problem with this, just before I stop? X, Y, width, height, color, AV. Okay, so I will complete the bar graph gadget and display some distribution information next time.